Hello, welcome to the debate on Sky News. I'm Martin Stanford. Here's our take on developments brought together from America, the UK and around the world.
What I do have a problem with is being lied about and then putting that out there as true.
Frankly, we have to stop illegal immigration.
What we are going through in this country is not simply an economic downturn. We are living through a massive economic transformation.
Trust, terror, immigration and economy. Are these what you are worried about? Are you suffering debate fatigue? Has a Republican leader emerged following this week's debate in Wisconsin? In 1 year, the polls will open. But what will be the topics you'll be voting on? Alastair Campbell is with us. He's Tony Blair's former Director of Communications and Strategy. Our two regulars are in the studio with me. Hello to Geoffrey Robinson, as usual, on the left, and the Conservative commentator Armstrong Williams on the right of your picture. Gentlemen, it's great to have you with us.
Terrific
Thanks
to be
for being
Really
here in
great.
London. Now, are you getting debate fatigue yet, Geoffrey?
Of course. I've had it since the beginning. I mean, as long as Donald Trump is in there, it's amusing and it's show business. If he ever leaves, I would watch reruns of Law and Order long before I would watch these clowns because they've really got nothing to say. They're making a joke of the political process, and none of them are electable. Why would I care?
But that's the process we're in, Armstrong, isn't it? That's the system you guys have got.
Well, it's a little different for me, and for full disclosure, I'm Dr. Carson's business manager and advisor and longtime friend. And so as someone who has worked with him in preparation for the debates, and I've watched all the debates, I actually thought that last night's debate was full of substance. It was clearly the best debate to put together where they really got a chance to talk about the issues. And no, I have no debate fatigue because I understand the importance of the next presidential election and the person that we the people choose. And so there's much at stake for our nation.
Lots to talk about in the next few minutes. Let's bring in Alastair Campbell, who's just returned from America. He's witnessed electioneering there firsthand. He was there promoting his book, Winners and How They Succeed, which I guess is appropriate during the presidential election campaign. Alastair, good to have you with us today. Now, what about this debate process? Do you think it's one that we should do more of in the UK?
No, I think that the American system stems from a time when candidates had to travel thousands and thousands of miles and go to every state. But now that you've got mass communication and they can travel fairly easily, I think the American presidential campaign is way, way, way too long. I do think these debates have been interesting, but I think that the more they get narrowed down, the better they will become. I mean, as you say, I was in the States for a while, and I think for an outsider going in, it's baffling to watch the debate because you have a sense of, to my mind, politicians, and in the case of Trump, Carson and Fiorina, non-politicians, as it were, who are trying to use that to their advantage. You have the candidates kind of vying with each other to appeal to a party base, but the more that they do that, to my mind, the more unelectable they make themselves for the general public. And I think the more they have to do these debates, the more they have to get noticed, often the crazier the things that they have to say to feel that they can touch this base, then I think the more difficult it becomes to imagine them as presidents. I mean, funny enough, when I was doing one interview about my book at CBS and Dr. Carson was there, and you know, I thought he was a perfectly nice guy, but I couldn't imagine him as a president of the United States of America. I can't imagine Donald Trump as the president of the United States of America. Now, unless I'm missing something, then I guess my sense is that those two will fade, and that my own bet is that Rubio is going to emerge. But I just,
what's missing in them in this context of being a winner? What's missing from their personality or their politics?
I think with Trump, it's kind of fairly obvious. I think that, Geoffrey's saying that, it's more like while he's there, it's like showbiz, it's like entertainment. And even though, in a way, media and politics have made politics almost at times, the media coverage almost feels like it is part of the entertainment industry. Deep down, I think that people know that it's not. And therefore, I think that he just, to me, and I think to most Europeans looking in on this debate, just people find it baffling that he's even there doing as well as he is. I think with Dr. Carson and with Trump, I think that they, to my mind, the reason why Rubio is coming over to me as a more winning and more attractive candidate is he does seem to have a message about the future. I feel with the others that they're talking all the time about the past. Even Make America Great Again is kind of saying we've lost our past. And I think that all elections are about tomorrow. Yes, you get your life torn to bits, as Dr. Carson is finding at the moment. You get everything you've ever said analysed and torn to bits. But it's always about the future. And that's why I think that the people who will most be enjoying watching these Republican debates, I suspect, are the Democrats.
Armstrong, Mr. Carson, Dr. Carson is having his life torn to shreds, isn't he, with all these things about West Point, for instance?
No, not at all. There are lies that are being told, which have been refuted, whether it's Politico or the Wall Street Journal. Even NBC News did a report refuting the lies that have been told. And to Mr. Alastair, I want to congratulate him on writing his book, and I wish him well. But to me, he's an outsider. He cannot begin to understand what's going on in American politics. And he himself, as an establishment person, he probably knows many of these leaders that are running and vying for the office of president, and he has relationships. And he's like many Americans, establishment and establishment media. They don't understand why people would look to someone like Mr. Trump and Mr. Carson, and they keep wondering whether the American people will come to their good senses and start giving energy and support to one of these establishment candidates. But I like to tell Mr. Alastair that's not going to happen. America is an uprising. It's in a revolution. It does not want the establishment. It wants something different. They want to repudiate those systems because it has not worked for them. And even if, as Jeffrey and I sit here today, none of us can tell you who actually will win the White House in 2016, because that's the kind of era we find ourselves in.
Sure. Yes, I can. Yes, I can. Hillary Clinton. I mean, there's no doubt about this, because the Republicans don't have a single viable candidate who could get the nomination. Now, the one candidate...
Well, somebody will emerge as a nominee.
Somebody will, one of the clowns. But one of the few candidates who actually could be seen as a president is John Kasich, the governor from Ohio. Jeb Bush, perhaps, but Bush, we're not going to elect a third Bush. The thing with the Carson campaign is the wheels are coming off the clown car. You know, these are not lies about him. Robinson's Law, when a politician complains about the media, you know he's guilty. Absolutely, unequivocally. The fact is, his memory is faulty about all sorts of things he's invented in his biography. He can't run on a political record. He's running on his autobiography, which is filled with falsifications and outright lies. He invented a course at Yale that never happened. And then he blames the media, and he blamed his ghostwriter. Let me tell you something. As somebody who's written 3 best-selling as told tos, there is no possibility whatsoever that his ghostwriter inserted something that he didn't know about. He had at least 6 chances. And ask Alastair, because he's just gone through the book process, how many times you get to review over and over. He had 6 chances to take that out. He left it in because he knew he was lying, and it helped
He can address that, but I'd also wanted to address Jeffrey's other theory, Alastair, which is if a politician or maybe a politician's assistant starts complaining about the media, they're both guilty. What do you think about that theory?
No, I don't buy that. I don't think you can unequivocally state that. I think there are sometimes...
He wouldn't, because he's a politician.
No, but I've also got a lot of experience of media saying things that are wrong, and eventually they accept that they're wrong. But I think that on the point... Look, Armstrong is right that I'm an outsider, but I think sometimes it's useful to have outsiders' eyes to come in and look at the process. Because I'll tell you something else that I found really quite disturbing about the election. And that is the extent to which it appears so parochial. And when they do talk about foreign policy, it's like just embarrassing, the level of the debate. I mean, Trump goes on about putting up walls, and Dr. Carson talks about we should have armed the Jews with guns and then there wouldn't have been a Holocaust. And they all have these very simplistic analyses of Vladimir Putin or Syria, whatever it might be. And so it's important that he understands that outsiders are entitled to a view in this, because the election of the President of the United States matters to all of us. And therefore, I think that somebody like me, who has gone through lots of elections and has gone through lots of campaigns, both winning and losing, but has learnt a lot on the way, there are certain principles of winning campaigns that, you know, you can look at and you can apply. And I just feel like you're right. I don't know. I could be wrong. None of us know. But I think that where Armstrong is right is, and we saw this with the election of Jeremy Corbyn as leader of the Labour Party in the UK, that there is a desire amongst the public for something different. There's a desire amongst the public actually to kick politicians. But at the same time, people aren't stupid. They know ultimately they're going to choose the person who's going to sit down on a table opposite Vladimir Putin, opposite Netanyahu, who's going to have to deal with the Middle East, who's going to have to deal with ISIS. And some of the stuff that these guys come up with is so simplistic. I've got to tell you, it's embarrassing.
Armstrong, let me ask you to address that.
The American people are not stupid. They understand exactly what he's saying. And just like Alastair, who may have met Dr. Carson in the green room, it's unfair for him to speak to him for minutes and come to a conclusion without having a thoroughly vetted conversation. I wouldn't want to make that judgment about Tony Blair when he was running for prime minister, because it would be unfair.
On Alastair's point about the sort of naivety or the lack of experience, isn't that a valid criticism that any one of these novice candidates, you know, within weeks could be facing President Putin across a negotiating table?
But Martin,
can they do that?
The beauty of this is that you surround yourself with people who have the expertise, who have been in those positions. And Dr. Carson has always talked about surrounding himself with the best counselors. Even Alastair and Jeffrey, no matter how bright, how gifted they are in their field, there are things they can learn in their field every day from others. And the bottom line is Dr. Carson, Mr. Trump, have the potential to get to the point, because they're still in the infancy of this, but when they get to the point and begin to grow and understand the complexity of these issues, though they don't have a legislative record, I think, given what our other elected officials have given us over the last 20 years, I think the American people are saying, what do we stand to lose?
OK, we're going to hold the conversation there, Jeffrey. You're going to come right back in.
I will tell you what we stand to lose.
In just a couple of moments. A reminder, you can catch up with the Sky News debate on Apple TV, Roku and Catch Up, and of course at skynews.com/US. So we were talking about credibility, Jeffrey, and whether a novice can do the job of president.
I will tell you a story. In 1990, when Gulf won, 91 or 92, when Saddam Hussein burned the oil fields in Kuwait, they hired one of those guys, and I forget if it was Boots and Coots or Red Adair, one of the guys who puts out oil fires. And he went to put out all these humongous oil fires in Kuwait. And Time magazine stumbled across the fact that he personally was earning $1 million a day for his services. He personally, not the company, him, putting in his pocket $1 million a day. So they went to Boots and Coots or Red Adair, quite these cowboys, great characters, and said, is it true that you're earning $1 million a day? He said, that's right. And they said, isn't that expensive? He says, if you all think that's expensive, try hiring an amateur. America will not hire an amateur for President of the United States.
Let's bring in Alastair Campbell again. Alastair, I'm intrigued because you use a lot of extrapolation into sport, don't you, in your Winners book, and make comparisons, in fact, between sports people and successful politicians. How do you explain the fact that success can be so ephemeral? I mean, Arsene Wenger's a hero 1 minute, he has a great bad run of form. Mourinho, to use the soccer analogy here in the UK at the moment, is having a disastrous season, and yet he was your hero when you interviewed him for the book.
Hero overstates it, but certainly he's a winner. He's won at the top level in 4 different countries, but he is, as you say, going through a very bad patch. And I think that one of the reasons why I agree with Jeffrey, I think Hillary Clinton will emerge as the winner. I think resilience is an incredibly important quality in a campaigner, and Hillary's learnt from defeat. One of my favourite quotes in the book is from an Irishman. He's an athletics coach in Kenya called Colm O'Connell, and he says the winner is the loser who evaluates defeat properly. And I think Hillary has learned from defeat. I don't think it's interesting to watch Donald Trump and the way I think he went into this campaign not expecting to do as well as he's done. He's having to go through a different sort of adaptation. You do have to adapt as you go. But the thing about, when we talk about getting the best people around you, that's about teamship, it's about team building, and that's important in sport as in politics. I mean, there are parallels, but there are also differences. The biggest difference is that sport is very much, the results are fairly clear-cut. You know, you don't have a debate and then you have a poll about who won. You have a match, and the person who scores the most points wins, and it's much easier to work out. But I think where politics is really, really important is you have to have a really hard and enduring strategy. And again, I don't sense that. I think these guys they feel very tactical to me. And Armstrong's right that it's unfair of me to kind of make a general judgment about a brief meeting. But it's not, it's not the only thing that leads me to make a judgment. I mean, I watch these guys performing and I read what they say, and I just have a sense that he's right that I could be wrong, but my sense is that they are dominant in what you might call the entertainment phase of this. I think when it gets down to the business end, I think it will change.
Yeah. Just a thought, though, about the old rubric that all politicians' lives end in failure. So the success you've quantified in this book, does it desert everyone in time? Is it finite?
No, because if you look at, I've just been walking across Parliament Square and there's a wonderful statue of Abraham Lincoln there. Abraham Lincoln's reputation today is probably greater than at any time, even when he was in office. And I think likewise, if you think of somebody like Muhammad Ali lost fights, but people think of him as a hero in all sorts of different ways. So actually, no, I think with time, reputation changes and it develops. And when you're talking about big historical figures, be it in sport or business or politics, if you like, the reputation never stops developing, and it can develop for good or for bad.
Alastair Campbell, thanks very much. Jeffrey, do you agree?
Yeah, I agree to some extent. It helps, and I hate to say this, but it helps to be assassinated. Kennedy, or to die young, Elvis, Marilyn, their reputation is frozen in time, so they can't become losers with age. The fact is, the last time America hired an amateur as president was Dwight Eisenhower. Mm. But he won World War II. I mean, he had some real street cred. Ben Carson is not Dwight Eisenhower. I rest my case.
But yet
what?
Well, he's not Eisenhower or in that league yet.
No, he's never going to be in that league.
Well,
he
how
says
can
stupid
you
things.
be so
He
certain?
comes on television and says, I've never held elected office, and neither had any of the founding fathers who signed the Constitution or the Declaration of Independence. Dead wrong. They'd all held elective office. I mean, he comes up with these completely idiotic thing. The pyramids were made to store grain. Completely denies 5,000 years of Egyptology. I mean, he says these things as if they're fact, and when you look at them, you realize he doesn't know what he's talking about, and when you accuse him of that or making stuff up, like he did with his course at Yale, he said, blames the media. You're taking me out of context. It was my ghostwriter. You've got me wrong. I can't stand it. Now, blaming the media is a good tact for the Republicans, and it always gets an applause line. But the fact is, they're still wrong. And when you blame the media, you're guilty. End of story.
Well, I know Jeffrey is in London, has been in London for the last few days, and he probably has not read the latest news where BuzzFeed, very liberal institution, debunked the Wall Street Journal story in its entirety. There was a course, there was a test, it was fake, and Dr. Carson was in that class. And also,
BuzzFeed denied BuzzFeed, but Yale denied it.
May I finish? No, let me
Yale
finish.
denied it.
Let me finish.
Let him have a go.
And also, with the issue with Yale, that was also debunked, as well as the belt buckle. His mother had an interview with Parade magazine in 1995. NBC pulled it up, and she said, without a doubt, he tried to stab someone, and the belt buckle stopped it. She had a talk with him, and it changed it out. But what I want to say here, I respect my brother here. And I respect Mr. Alastair. But you know what? Times change. Sometimes the great names, the Bushes and the Clintons, Americans don't want dynasties. I can't tell you what's going on with America today.
I agree with you.
But there's a reason why, no matter what happens during the debate, no matter what Dr. Carson or Mr. Trump may say, they rise in the polls, they raise more money, and those that do well in the debates will do well in the debate and for a week or so, but yet, just like Carly Fiorina, they drop to the bottom rung of the ladder. Until someone shows us how these candidates that you so favor is going to emerge and catch up with Mr. Trump and Mr. Carson, I tell you, the more things change, the more they will remain the same.
Why do you think it blows in the wind so much, though?
Because
it's so volatile, isn't it?
Because it's not about them anymore. Their season has passed. The American people are into a new season and a new mindset. It doesn't matter how eloquent Mr. Rubio is. It doesn't matter how great the Bush family has, what they've contributed to the American people. It doesn't matter what he says. The American people are not hearing it. They're not listening to him. They've made up their minds, and it only grows. A month ago, Mr. Trump had Carson by 18 percentage points in South Carolina. Today, Mr. Carson leads. I can't explain everything, but I will tell you something. Something is growing in the psyche and in the hearts of the American people, and it's not establishment.
Jeffrey, I
it's
know
not
you
done.
disagree, but he may be onto something
No,
here
he's not,
in terms of there's a
because
groundswell of regular Americans seem to like what these guys are saying.
Ben Carson is following in the groundswell of great American names like Michelle Bachmann, Rick Santorum, Rick Perry, and all the other losers who rose for a minute, had their 15 minutes of fame, and very quickly retreated into the obscurity they so richly deserve. And I'm going to say this. I've never said this before. Ben Carson's a political fraud. He's an absolute political fraud.
Why?
Well, if you read Charles Blow's editorial in the New York Times, he sums it up pretty well, where he talks about the Carson brand. What he's doing is selling the Carson brand. He stopped his campaign for a book tour to make money. He's in this for the big bucks. He never in a million years thought he would ever rise up to the top of the party for a while.
Well,
but he will sink back down again because he's embarrassing himself with stupid comments, and as soon as he realizes he's ruining the brand, he'll drop out.
Not
he
many
will not
Americans.
Be there. He
Not
will not.
many Americans will criticize a guy for making money.
No, I'm not
You're a
criticizing
nation
him.
who
I'm
like making
criticizing him
money.
for being a political fraud, and I'm very firm on that.
So that would make all of them a political fraud.
Most of
according
them
to you.
are.
Okay, including Hillary.
No, Hillary
Oh.
is absolutely. Hillary is absolutely.
This is comical.
Hillary is absolutely qualified to be president. Ben Carson has no qualifications
We're talking about the money.
whatsoever.
Is she a political fraud?
No, I'm not talking about the money. I'm talking about
that's how you
Ben
came
Carson.
to the point of a fraud.
Why did he stop his campaign to sell a book?
I asked a simple question.
I'm
if Carson
answering
is,
this.
does that include Mrs. Clinton?
No, it does not include.
Then
She
you're-
is qualified to be
which is
president.
rare
Why,
for you.
explain to us why you think it does include Mrs. Clinton.
The Clinton Foundation, being influenced,
Secretary of State.
and where the government, the money in Haiti that was to go to clean up and make people's lives better, it's worse off than it ever has been. The emailer list. Look, I'm not here to talk about Mrs. Clinton, but I will tell you this. Can't you tell by my brother's facial expression? Carson frightens these people.
No,
Why are you afraid
Are
of
you
Dr.
kidding?
Carson?
I would send
What is
Carson
it?
money. I would send him
What
money
is
because
it?
I want him to be the candidate. Because Ben Carson will lose 75 states, and there are only 50.
The good
Ben
news-
Carson will destroy the Republican Party
Well,
as the
I'll
candidate.
tell you what.
The way Goldwater did in '64. I wish it on
You should
them.
get ready for the destruction.
I wish it
Get
on
ready
them.
for it. Listen,
Ben Carson
it'll
cannot get elected
It'll be
to
okay
anything.
when he wins the White House. It'll be okay.
Oh,
the country will be
wow.
okay.
Wow.
It'll
The
be
country- yeah.
okay.
We ain't going to hire an amateur. Trust
Okay,
me.
it'll
We
be
can't
okay.
afford him.
I just want you to know it'll be
The
okay.
country can't afford
We'll
an
help
amateur.
you through it.
You're going to
I will
have
be
to.
your therapist.
You're going to have to because I'm
Okay.
moving here.
Okay,
We
well,
have to.
This is a long, long race, the marathon, isn't it? We've just about less than a year to go now to get the nominations done, and then the general all starts and everything else between the two candidates that emerge. It's exhausting, isn't it, for the candidates? And I'm wondering, isn't it exhausting for the electorate? Don't they, however much they might like the rhetoric of a Trump or a Carson, do they not get tired of this?
They've never had a more exciting GOP presidential cycle in ages. It's entertaining. It's thrilling. It's the
Well, it was
best
handed to
reality
anyone
show.
called Bush for a while,
It's the
wasn't it?
best reality show going on in America right now. And the candidates.
That's a risk, though, Armstrong, isn't it? It's just a reality show. It
It's a
doesn't
reality
really
show.
matter.
It's
all of
Donald
it.
Trump.
Listen, debates in and of themselves is reality TV. It's theater. It's a performance. That's what they are. It's a beauty pageant. They parade them across. They say good things. They look good in their nice ties and their nice dresses. It's a beauty contest. But when they're out in the land, among the grassroots, campaigning, that's where it really matters. It doesn't matter what you see on TV. What matters is how they connect to the voters and further their brand with the voters that will end up voting for them in these primaries and ultimately throughout the country.
You understand all the polls are Republican possible voters. And Ben Carson does have an attachment to the evangelical voter. But as soon as that dries up, he's got nobody. He can't win New York. He can't win California. He won't win Florida. He won't win Ohio. You lose those 4 states, you can't be president. But he won't get the nomination. Because the
Patience.
Republicans will not commit suicide like that.
Patience.
They won't allow it. Donald Trump has got enough money to perhaps buy his way in. But you watch Rubio, Cruz. I mean, I'd love to see Cruz. He would do as much damage to the Republicans as Ben Carson would. It's Rubio, and I do like Kasich, because Kasich could be president. He talks sense, but because he talks sense, he won't get the Republican
Just in the
nomination.
interest of balance here, there's still some doubts about Mrs. Clinton's electability, isn't there?
Yes.
No, I don't have any
Yes,
doubts.
of course.
I don't
Well,
have
no,
any
you
doubts.
don't have
He's
any
blind.
doubts,
He
Jeffrey.
can't
But
see
I mean,
that. He can't see
in
it.
opinion polls, in the professional political class, do worry about all the baggage she's going to bring to this.
What baggage?
There you go.
The email scandal has proven to be nothing. Benghazi, the Republicans have wasted trillions of dollars on Benghazi and come up with nothing. She's former Secretary of State, former First Lady, former Senator. She's got all the qualifications. And as Alastair said, She's lost, so she now knows how to win. I mean, you look at Bernie Sanders. Now, I interviewed Bernie Sanders years ago, and I found him to be an angry old man. Bernie Sanders the other night with Rachel Maddow on MSNBC and a long interview with him turned out to be charming, funny, and he talks sense. He does make sense. Now, will he have a chance to become president? I doubt it. But he talks good sense. None of the Republicans make any sense whatsoever.
You see, it'll be a different time frame, but we have in the UK here the reality of testing out this theory, because we have a popular candidate who does not appear to be the identikit professional politician in Jeremy Corbyn, who is now the leader of the Labour Party. Right? So in a very similar way, different political perspective, but in a very similar way, he's a popular uprising.
But he's a
most
politician.
of the commentariat are saying he doesn't stand a hope in hell. And yet, in a few years' time, when we get to the polls, he might just win.
Well,
so
first
this
of all,
idea
he's
that
a
the
politician.
outsider...
He's
a career politician.
He's a career
been
politician.
an MP for
and
decades.
And without getting into inside baseball, what happens in a few years is he runs against Boris Johnson, who's now the mayor of London, and Boris Johnson sweeps the election completely in Jeremy Corbyn's.
That's your prediction for the Conservative Party.
Yeah,
I just want to make sure, because I love when Jeffrey makes these declarations. I just love it. I am not as confident to make declarations about what would happen between here and November 2016. But I pray that you live, that you and I are in the set together right after the election when Ben Carson is president of the United States and not Hillary Clinton.
It'll have to be in England, because I'm leaving the country.
But that's different. That you finally show humility and show that you can be wrong.
I'll bring the cake.
Okay.
And
I'll
you're
put
going
the
to have to eat
candles
it.
on it.
Yeah,
And
you're
with
going to
that-
have to eat it.
And with that thought, guys, great to have you with us.
Yes.
And thank you very much
Oh,
indeed.
Yes, brother. My brother. He's entertaining. I give it to him.
That's it for this edition of The Debate. You can continue watching Sky News on Apple TV, Roku and Catch Up, and of course at skynews.com. Until next time, goodbye.